Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jared, if we haven't met. Thanks for coming in for part 3. We are about to wrap up a series I've been in called Haters. And I made this joke the first week, but it's still worth making. We've really been talking about love. And the reason we didn't call this series Lovers is because that's awkward. So we just called it Haters. Here's the deal. We came up with this question. How do you love somebody who doesn't love you back? Like the whole thing we've been trying to talk about the last couple weeks is like, how do you do that? Like Jesus said to love your enemies. And that doesn't make sense. Like we can't wrap our minds around how that's supposed to work sometimes. So we've been diving into that. And so I have a new question for you to consider and think about as we launch into this part 3 is this question. What's the root of your difficulty loving people who don't love you? To which you say, they hate me. Okay, I get it. All right, but let's just dive a little bit deeper than that. Why can't you love someone who doesn't like you or seems to hate you? Why can't you love them back? What's the problem? Well, it's the trust issue. I don't trust them anymore. I get that. You can't trust them because they've said this about you behind their back, and they keep doing these things behind you that are around your back, manipulating you and trying to manipulate the situation at work, or maybe it's in your family, and they keep saying this stuff and stirring up trouble, and all this stuff happens maybe with your ex, and the way they deal with your kids, and the way this happens, man, it just seems like I can't trust them. I can't trust them as far as I can throw them, like my granddad used to say, but you just can't trust them. Okay, was that really the root of the issue? Is it because the trust? Because there are ways to get around maybe trusting them. Maybe there's some boundaries you can put in place. We talked about it last week. We'll talk about more in a second. But or maybe for you, some of you, it's like, well, the reason I can't love them is because they don't deserve it. Like, why would I love somebody who doesn't treat me right? They don't deserve my love. They don't deserve anything from me. They're over there doing their thing. I've got these people I love. They treat me well. I treat them well back. We get along okay. But that person, no. They're cut off because they just don't deserve what I have. Okay, is that really the root of it? Here's what I want to posit to you this morning. I want to walk you through some basic fears that I think drive us. Because here's the thing. If we sat down and talked about why you aren't loving the person who doesn't love you back, I would bet, I wouldn't bet a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money. But I bet some money that you would end up saying something like this. Well, I'm just afraid that in the future they might. Well, I'm just afraid that if I do this, then they won't do that and they won't follow through because they've never done so in the past. I'm just afraid that if I do that, they're going to treat me even worse. See, I think at the root of whatever it is, your trust issues or maybe your forgiveness issues or maybe whatever it is that you feel is keeping you from loving this person, I think it's because you have a fear. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be open with you, and I'm going to talk you through some fears that I have, and maybe if they connect with you, we can be on the same level this morning. I hope they do. But here's some things I think oftentimes when I think about loving people who don't love me. Well, what if I try to love and can't love enough? Meaning this, I've already got a group of people that I'm already trying to love really well, like my family and my friends and my coworkers, and I'm trying to love these people who we're in a relationship together and it's on positive terms. And yes, sometimes I mess up and sometimes I do well, but I'm having a real difficult time just loving these people really, really well. What if I try to take on this person who hates me and I'm trying to love them and I just can't love them well enough because I got to stay focused on the right people here. I can't just go and love them. What if I lose my focus and I can't actually love enough? What if I run out of love for them? Well, I can't even get started in it then. That's sometimes my fear. I sometimes wonder if I can take on another relationship that requires something from me. I'm also a people pleaser, so I have this other fear. The second fear is, what if I give so much that my needs don't get met? See, I love to have people happy around me, so what I tend to do is I make sure they all get what they want or what they need. But there are times when I get so drained, and I have this little pity party, and I wonder, I'm giving so much to everybody else in my life. Well, who's going to meet my needs if I try to take on this other person? If I'm trying to meet their needs, who's going to meet my needs? Because I know they hate me. They're not going to return the favor. They're not going to come back and love me back. So what am I supposed to do about that? There's a gap there. If I give and give and give, no, who's going to take care of me, huh? And so I get this really kind of closed-minded view about this other person and how this love thing works, and I worry about me a lot. And the last fear I have is this. What if I can't make a difference? And it comes from, this isn't so much like, man, I want to make a difference in the world. It comes from this area. I ask this question, and this fear pops up when I look at this other person, and I realize, man, they don't really deserve my love, and they're probably never going to be any different and change because they're just that way. Right? And I label them, that's a person worth hating because they've done that and they do that and there's nothing I can do. I can't really make a difference in their life. Why even waste my energy on somebody who can't even do these simple things to have a real relationship? So I tell you what, I'm afraid they won't change. And I'm so afraid they won't change, there's no use in me even trying to love them. It won't make a difference. I'm not wasting my time. Now, I don't know where you land in all this, if any of those land with you or not, but here's what I know. At the center point of this whole love thing, at the root of it, why I don't love the people who seem to not love me back, for me, it's fear. There's a true fear that I won't get something I need, that I won't get something in return, that I will give something away I can't get back. And that's a problem, because there are a lot of people on the other side of my love that never know what real love looks like. And so what I want to dive in today is basically this big idea we've been talking about the last couple weeks. If I had a bottom line for this whole series, I would want you to just write this one thing down and try to just focus in on that. But for the whole series, it's this line, that if you believe you are the source of love, then you will end up loving too little. See, I think when we focus on our fears and the fears that drive us, we tend to think that we are somehow making love up, that we are the source of love, we are the creators of love, that love comes from us. And we get in that trouble, we realize really quickly that we have a limit to our love. And we stop loving certain people or in certain situations, or we stop loving certain ways because we don't get what we want out of it. So our love definitely has limits. And if you have the idea that you are the source of love, then you will actually end up loving too little. Even the people who are good to you, you will love too little. So here's the idea, this last series. Let me catch you up where we've been. We said that haters steal your energy. They steal your time because you focus on them, you think about them, and you end up in one of two places, or maybe both. You end up hating them back, or you end up hating yourself. And in the middle of all this hating of others and hating yourself, you don't know what to do or how to deal with them. And a lot of us, we set very unhealthy boundaries, not on our love, but on the behaviors of people in our life. We talked about last week. If you didn't listen last week, please go listen last week. We talked about how it is actually the loving thing to do to set healthy boundaries with people, that there are wise people, there are foolish people, and there are evil people. And you love all three of those different categories in different ways. But you can't love them all the same. You can't love a fool like you love a wise person. You can't love an evil person like you love a foolish person. And you can't love a wise person like you love a foolish person. It's not going to work. So yeah, there are boundaries on people's behaviors that you need to be aware of. But the big deal today, what I want to get you to dive into is this. That are your fears preventing you from loving people well? Especially those people who don't seem to love you in return. Because here's what I think John, the disciple of Jesus, would tell us. As we've been talking about, John wrote this letter to this church and trying to encourage them. They were stuck in the middle of being hated by both the Roman government and the Jews. The Jews didn't want the Christian church to continue because, man, they were saying there was this other person, this king, this Messiah. The Messiah hasn't come. And we don't believe that. We got to cut this movement off. It's going to destroy everything. And the Romans were like, man, there's causing a lot of unrest here. We can't let the Christian movement continue doing that. We got to keep things under order. And so from both sides, these Christians were receiving this hate. And he writes this letter. And in chapter 4, he starts talking about how to deal with people who hate us. And it basically came down to this, and I think you're going to see that this one bottom line kind of fits what we're going to talk through in the verses we're going to talk through. He would say this. Sorry, go back to that one side. Yeah. If our fears drive our decisions of when to love, whom to love, and how to love, then we are actually not loving at all. I think that's what you're going to find John is saying, because I believe that many of us are stuck in a place of fear rather than a place of love. And when you are stuck in a place of fear, you actually cannot love well. You cannot approach love. You can't approach it with the right motivations. You don't approach it with the right attitude. You can't even do the right things in the middle of the fear, because that fear will drive your decisions somewhere else. So I want to try and release you from that fear this morning if that's something that's keeping you from loving. So now, let's go to verse 15 in chapter 4 and see what John says about this. John says, if anyone acknowledges that Jesus is the Son of God, God lives in them and they in God. And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. This is very interesting. He uses two verbs here that kind of mean basically the same thing. You're like, John, you're being redundant. Well, I say you know something and you rely on it. If you know something, you obviously rely on it. Like if you know gravity works, like you rely on the fact that gravity works. Let me give you another scenario. Perhaps you are with me on this one. I know that too many Coca-Colas in my diet are not good for my sugar intake. You know what? I try to limit my diet to 3 Coca-Colas per week. And you know what I do? I buy a Coke at a restaurant and I refill it 4 or 5 times, but that's only 1 Coke, right? I know that the number of sugary drinks I drink is not good for my body. Do I rely on that fact? No, I do not. You know what I rely on? My need for Coke. That's what I rely on. You know, I know that 7 to 8 hours of sleep is better for my brain and better for my treatment of other people in the morning. Did you know that there are some nights of the week that I know going to bed at 9:30 would be great because I have to get up the next morning a very early time? And you know what I do? I rely on that by watching a movie till 11. This is why John splits this. He knows that we know some things intellectually that we do not actually rely on. And I believe that this is one of those things. See, I know that some of you in the room, you know beyond a shadow of doubt that Jesus died for you. And you know that intellectually. You've accepted that fact. But there are decisions you make that would prove that you do not rely on that love He has for you. You know how I know that? Because I do that. I tend to forget and rely on the fact that God has a love for me that goes so deep as that anyone acknowledges that Jesus is the Son of God, that God lives in me and I live in Him. And if I rely on that fact, if I will start to rely on God's love for me, then that should make a difference in how I decide who I love, when I love, and how I love. But I don't always do that because I don't rely on that as a fact, as something that comes home to me and becomes true to me. Look at how he describes it in the next verse. God is love. Now, he repeats this God is love phrase several times in chapter 4. If you go read the 4th chapter of 1 John, you'll see in this letter, God is love comes up over and over again. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. This is the second time he says this weird thing about us living in God and God living in us. This must be pretty important, so I want to focus in on this. John is trying to point us to some mysterious truth that does not make sense. Like if I came to you and said, hey, the sugar is in the bowl and the bowl is in the sugar, you would think I was crazy. You would absolutely, you're out of my mind. John says, listen, you are in God and God is in you. That doesn't make sense. Like when you believe in Jesus as the Son of God, God is in you and you are in God. You know what John's trying to figure out? John is trying to find words to wrap his mind around this thing that he saw happen when he saw Jesus die and then come back to life. And for Jesus to say, listen, I want you to love other people as I love you. And I will be with you, and God will be with you, and you'll be in me, and I'll be in you. And Jesus taught this before he leaves John, and John hears this, and he's going, it doesn't quite make sense to me yet, but here's what I know. Over the years that I've tested out, it's got to be true. Here's what John's trying to say. We are so close to God. We are so much closer than we actually believe. We are so close to God that God lives in us, but we also live in Him. And this is crazy. But John's trying to point us to a truth to help us understand something. Like if you really rely on the fact that God loves you, if you believe God's love showed itself in the fact that Jesus came to die for you, that should change the way you think about your connection to your Heavenly Father. And listen, if you haven't gotten that yet, if you wouldn't call yourself a follower of Jesus here this morning, that's okay. Listen, I'm just going to explain to you why we make the decisions we make as Christians. And this may give you some insight, because you may look at it and be like, I'm not even sure Jesus died for me. That's fine. You don't have to believe any of that yet. But those of us who follow Jesus, listen, we've got to understand John's trying to point us to something that is greater than just having a connection. He's saying that we have a closeness with God that can only be described by this weird scenario where God is in us and we are in Him. And being that close to God, do you rely on that? Like you know it, like it's right there. You've read this probably a couple of times in your life. If this is your first time reading this, is a brand new mystery. But listen, John wants you to know God is so close to you. You always have access to God's love. That's how close you are to Him. And then he says this in the next verse. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence. What's that word? Confidence. Think about confidence. Confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. He says this, you are so close to God. You are so intertwined with God when you believe in Jesus as His Son. Listen, you are so close to Him. His love is so close to you that you have confidence on the day of judgment. This is crazy. I have been in court. Charges haven't been brought against me. I was at court. Let's say it that way. I haven't been in court. I've been at court. Okay? I actually had to be in court to actually testify. Okay? And so in court, I wasn't even the one being judged. And I was like, dude, this is serious business. I do not want to mess this up. Right? When you're in front of a judge sitting right there and he's listening to everything you say, he's got the power to do with you what he wants. If I say something wrong, contempt of court. I've seen all the shows, right? Scared to death. Listen, John says, no. You don't have to worry about judgment day. In fact, you are so close to God and God's love is so close to you and you're so well connected that you should have confidence on the day of judgment. You should have confidence walking into that room going, God loves me. Not a cocky sort of confidence, but a restful kind of confidence. A confidence that lets you know, I'm depending on His love for me. I couldn't have gotten here by myself, but because He loves me, I'm going to be okay. And then John says this crazy thing at the end. In this world, we are like Jesus. Look, this is not something for your future. Like you'll be close to God someday. Someday you'll be so close to God that you'll have His love in you and it'll be always there for you. No. John says, look, in this world right now, we are like Jesus. We have access to the Father and His love at all times, just like Jesus did. Listen, for many of you in this room, this is hard for you to grasp because for a long time in your life, you have relied on how good you are at work. And you are good at your job, and that has filled you up with such pride, and it has become the thing that makes you who you are. And you so depend on your job. If you were to lose your job, it would break you. It wouldn't just break you because you wouldn't have income. It would break you because you wouldn't know who you were anymore. You have so much confidence in your abilities at work that it has become the central theme of who you are. Some of you have romantic relationships that define who you are. And you've been with this person or you've chosen to take on this person, and this person that you have beside you has defined who you are so much so that if they met an untimely death next week, it would break you. Not just because you would miss them, because you wouldn't know who you were anymore. You wouldn't have a sense of self. You wouldn't have a sense of value outside of who they told you you are. Some of you have children who you're having difficulty understanding as they go into adulthood that they're supposed to go off and be their own person because you have wrapped your whole life around your kids for so long that they have become your identity. And for them to leave and go off and be their own people, it is hurting you and it's breaking you inside at a point that you never knew it was there because you put so much value in who they are and who you've kind of made them to be that's become your identity and your worth and your value. And here's what John says. John says that if you're going to know and rely on God's love for you, you have confidence and you have access to God at all points in your life, so much so that is the thing that should define who you are. That is the thing about which you should make your life. And you say, what does this have to do with loving people who hate me? Well, here's what it has to do with this. Remember those fears we talked about? Remember those 3 fears? We have those 3 fears on the slide. What if I can't love enough? What if my needs aren't met? What if I make no difference in the world? See, your fears often drive how you love, when you love, and who you love based on what you can get back. Based on what you can do to fulfill the things that you have need for. And here's what God says. My love is so close to you. My love should make you so confident. My love brings you so close to me and who we are, listen, and who I am in you and you are in me. That yes, you should love other people. In fact, you can even love the people who hate you so much so that your value comes from just that. It should be enough for you to know that I love you. See, God's love has no limit. And all of these fears try to make love a limited thing. Because if you can't love enough, well, then there must be a limit to it, right? There's not enough. And if your needs can't get met, then only these people right here can meet your needs. And if you can't make a difference, well, then there's no need to put the energy in, because if you're only looking to make a difference, the only reason you're doing it is to make sure that something happens on the other end so you can say, look what I did, then listen, you're missing out on something. You're missing out on the basic truth of God's love for you. His love doesn't have limits. You may set limits on your love, but God does not set limits on your love. And you're going, wait, man, but I get drained and I lose energy and I don't always have enough to give everybody around me. Hey, I get that. You know what? Love is an unlimited resource. You are not. You will run out of finances. You will run out of energy. You will run out of time before you run out of love. But this is the point. See, Jesus understood this. He understood that love had no limits. He also understood he had limits while he was here on earth. So when he and his disciples, you'll remember this story. It's told a couple times in the gospel accounts, in the biographies of Jesus' life, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You take a look at it, and Jesus and his disciples sat down, and they fed 5,000 people. Jesus did this amazing miracle where he took two fish and some loaves of bread, and he made it into enough to feed 5,000 people. And his disciples were amazed, like it was a crazy thing. In fact, they worked all day to collect the extras in the baskets. They had baskets and baskets full of food left over, and they were like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, amazing. But can you imagine serving 5,000 people with just 12 people? And walking around and carrying baskets of food, and they were worn out. And they get done that evening, and Jesus says, hey, we need to take a rest. We need to take a break. You guys get on this boat, and I want you to cross the lake. Just get away from everything. Go out on the lake. Spend some time. I'm going to go up on this mountain and pray. Okay? I'll meet you there. Now, that was the night that Jesus ended up walking on water and meeting them out on the middle of the lake. And it was a cool little moment. But Jesus had to get away to recharge. But you know what happened when they reached the other side of the lake? All those people that had been fed, you know what they wanted? They wanted another meal. So they ran all the way around the side of the lake, and they met Jesus and his disciples on the other side. And when they land the boat, there's this whole crowd of people again. Like, dude, that was amazing. Do that again. And you know what it said Jesus did? It said Jesus said, get out of my way. We're done with you guys. No, it's not what he said. It actually says Jesus had compassion on the crowd. Listen, I think you've put limits on your love because you are afraid that there is a limit to love. Let me show you what no limits love looks like. No limit love looks like this. There is always enough love. There may not always be enough energy. You may need to get away and recharge, but there will always be enough love for anybody in your life who needs it. You know why? Because God has enough love for you. And God cares for you even when nobody else does. When you're looking around at all the people who seem to me not caring for you back, and you're like, I'm caring for them, and I'm caring for them, and I'm caring for them, and nobody's caring for me. You know who's caring for you? God is caring for you. And God's unlimited resource of love is there with you even when you don't feel like anybody else is trying to care for you. And His love is always available. You're like, I don't feel like it's always available. I feel like God is so far away for some time. I mean, I do some really nasty things to people myself, and sometimes I don't treat them well. And man, it just feels like I'm so far away from God. No. God is always available. God is always there beside you. He doesn't put a limit on His love for you. He's not going to run away from you when you do things wrong. He's committed to you. Does He want you to do wrong things? No. Does He encourage you to do things wrong? No. But when you do, He's available. He's there to talk to about it. And God's love changes things. It just may not change the things that you want changed. But God's love changes things for sure. And those of you who've experienced it, hasn't God's love changed you? Has it taken some time? It wasn't usually instantaneous, was it? But over time, the more you understood God's love for you, the more you understood this, that it started to change how you responded to people, and it started to change how you responded to yourself and your own mistakes and the different things, and you start to look at yourself differently, your life differently. Didn't that happen to you? So listen, you got to stop letting your fears put a limit on who you can love, when you can love, and how you can love. Do you need to put healthy boundaries in place so that you don't continue to hurt somebody who's trying to hurt you? Yes. But do not walk away from an experience that could give you the chance to love someone. So here's what some of you are thinking about. You're thinking about that boss at work and the way he's making your life miserable. And how he comes in, the whole team is just pulled down every Monday, and it's like drudgery to get through the week again. And the only thing you guys are working for as a team is just to get through the week and make sure the boss doesn't come down on you again. And the loving thing you could do for him is to tell him what his words are doing to the team. But you're afraid to say something, aren't you? You're afraid to address that because what if he takes it more out on you and gives you more work than what you want to handle? Or maybe so far as to dock your pay or send you packing. Your fear has determined how loving you're going to be to that man or that woman who is causing a ruckus among your own whole team. And would the loving thing to do just to be ignore him and be like, yeah, you do your own thing, I'm going to do mine. I'm just keep collecting a paycheck. You just, fine, whatever. And holding resentment toward him? Is that the loving thing to do? Or would the loving thing to do be to have a conversation despite the fear you have about it? What about with your ex? The way things have been going with that. And yeah, you have arguments about what to do about the kid and do this and that and when they should have him, when you should have him, how much and how little and all that. But you know what you've never really done? Because see, you're not together anymore. And to think about loving them, that just doesn't seem right. You just kind of cut that completely off. You just kind of ignored that part of the whole side of it. But listen, in the midst of all that, God says you can love them too. Because you know where they stand. You know what it's like to have to send that child home with them and to be apart, to be far away for a little while. And know that's not the ideal situation, but this is the reality you're in. And to look at them with loving eyes and to figure out, gosh, I don't want to have this conversation about where we should do this and how, but I'm going to go into this conversation knowing that I'm just going to try and make sure I love them well in this. And I'm not just going to fight for my own way. Listen, this is real life connectivity. Because if you can understand how much God loves you, then maybe, just maybe, you can love the person on the other side of this frustrating situation. So here's what John says. John says, basically, you shouldn't have to fear anymore. Look at this verse. But perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. That word perfect is the same word John used to talk about in the verse before about complete. Like, this is what makes God's love complete in us. This is how we know we can be complete in God's love and be confident on the day of judgment. If you want to be perfect in love, if you want to be complete, if you want to be whole, then you got to stop letting fear drive you, because perfect love drives out fear. See, the other person on the other side shouldn't have to fear you either. And your fear shouldn't drive how you treat them. What should drive how you treat them and when you love them and who you love should be God's love for you. Because God's love for you is so perfect that even when you don't do loving things to Him, or you don't do loving things to the people even that you love, God's love stays with you. And no matter what you've done or how you've treated the people around you, God's love was big enough to send Jesus to die for you, even when you didn't want it, even when you didn't think you needed it. That is what defines how you love, when you love, and who you love. So he ends with this final verse, verse 19. We love because He first loved us. Here's what I think. I think we are so caught up in getting what we need that we forget there are people on the other side of us who we can love in a way that shows them God's love for them. The only way they're going to understand what God's love looks like is for you to love them the way God loves them. And that means even when they don't like you, you look out for what is best for them. And listen, I'm not saying you need to get hurt more. What I'm saying is you need to beware of the fear that may drive how you have a conversation. Your fear may be driving you to try to get your way rather than trying to get love to them. Your fear may drive you to do something that gets you the best out of this situation rather than looking for a way to show them that you're willing to do for them. It doesn't mean you open yourself up to get hurt. It just means you're aware that maybe, just maybe, your fear is keeping you from loving the person across from you. So here's the real big deal then. As you start to understand God's love for you, that will give you the power to love other people. As you start to love, realize what God's love means for you, that God's love gives you worth and value beyond what you do, as God's love shows you that forgiveness is available to you, as God's love comes and lives in your life, how can that not go out to other people? Listen, if you're a follower of Jesus and you know and you rely on God's love for you, how can you not love the person across from you even when they don't love you? Because you know what it's like to be in their position. You've been there. You've been the person who has done that to other people. You've been that person who feels like they're on the outs with everybody. And the only thing you know to do is to treat them worse. You've been that person. And God said, no, that doesn't define you. My love defines you. My love for you should keep you from feeling that way. So you never have to be empty of love. I'm with you. You never have to be empty of love for other people because I'm with you. So if you feel like you're out of love, you need to come back to me. You need to figure out what my love means. So this is my challenge for us this week. My challenge is this. You need to find a way. You need to find some ways to make sure you realize this truth that God's love is with you at all times. That's the real ticket. I don't think it is possible to love someone who does not love you back until you get this right. Like if you can't figure out how much God loves you, then you will not see the unlimited part of God's love. You only see the limited part. And you won't be able to go somewhere that you could go with love for somebody who doesn't love you until you realize this. So I want to give you a scenario. I want to give you a metaphor that may help you think about this, okay? Technology is amazing. For Christmas, I bought my 12-year-old daughter a hoverboard. You know, I thought about that hoverboard and how amazing it is. You can get 45 minutes to an hour of hoverboard time on that. And I don't know, I can't ride it, but she can just ride it backwards and forwards and twist and turn it. It's so fun to watch her do that whole deal. You know what the sad thing is? You have to plug that thing in for 2 hours to get it charged up for 1 hour of time. I mean, it's kind of sad. I mean, it's better than the 90s, right? If we'd had that hoverboard in the 90s, you know what we'd done? We'd have had about 24D batteries, and it would have lasted about 20 minutes, and we'd have thrown the batteries away and had to buy new ones. Like, technology is great. Like, I love the fact that we can plug it in, and we can pull it back out, and we can plug it in, we can pull it back out. But you know what's coming? You know what the next wave of technology is? Did you know right now they have developed a soccer ball that they have sent to African villages? They kick this soccer ball all day long and have fun with it. And it charges the soccer ball up so that at night you open up the soccer ball insides and it's a charger for your phone or for your electronics. And they've also made a watch. It's not out on the market yet, but they've had this watch that it charges by your kinetic energy of moving. As long as you stay moving throughout the day, your watch charges. You never have to take it off. You don't have to plug it into any power source. It's just in there. Did you know that they have this thing? It's not on the market yet, but you look it up online. They have this power source that you can put in your wall that will charge all of your electronics sitting in front of it. So your TV and your dish and your Xbox and everything pretty soon will not have to plug into a wall source. It will just be powered by the thing behind it. Listen, I want you to upgrade a bit your understanding of God's love. You don't have to recharge on God's love every Sunday. Like, this is great if you think about yourself coming here. This is how I get charged up to love people. I'll come to church on Sunday. That's all fine and good. But you know what happens? By about Monday afternoon, you're shot. Because this is not a recharge station. See, God's love is with you wherever you go. I want you to upgrade to this fact. If you can stay connected to the source of love, you will never lack love for yourself or love for other people. So there's one thing you have to do this week. You need to study, read, memorize, talk out loud to yourself about, pray about, journal about, write down about, put it on a note card in your car about, put it on your mirror, put it on your phone background. I don't know what you need to do, but you need to stay connected to the love that God has for you. And if you can stay connected to the love God has for you, you will not lack any love for anyone else in your life, even the people who hate you. Because you'll be such connected to a loving source. God's love is unlimited. It has no limit. It does not stop. It does not stop when people stop treating you well. It does not stop when they do something to hurt you. It keeps going. And you can too. I want to pray for you this week. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much that you give us access to a source of love that is beyond our understanding some days. But God, when we really get it, God, we can love other people because you loved us, even the people that hurt us. So God, help us to be this week healthy in the way we approach these boundaries with wise people and foolish people and evil people in our lives. Help us to understand that our love has no limits, but there are some limits on boundaries we need to put in to protect ourselves. But we don't have to stop loving people because you never stop loving us. And God, we thank you for that truth. Help us to hold on to it and make it something we rely on. In your son's name I pray it. Amen.